Hi everybody, this is Laura, City Scrapper. Thank you so much for joining me on my channel. Today I have a layout that I made using the December My Creative Scrapbook limited edition kit. I noticed that in this month's kit there were a lot of embellishments that could be used to construct a little snow or Christmas scene, and so I picked them all out of the kit and now I'm arranging them on a piece of white cardstock. I'm going to take this arrangement and I'm going to place it on another piece of paper and use it on a layout. But right now I'm just concentrating on getting all these pieces arranged the way I like them so that they will look like a snow scene. I'm putting the red houses and the trees in the background. In some cases, I'm tucking the trees behind the houses. In other cases, I'm putting them in front of the houses. I want there to be some appearance of depth here. So I have the smaller trees in the background and I'm using the larger trees in the foreground. I'm not sure if you could see it. There's a smaller strip on top of that larger piece of white paper and I'm only attaching the elements down to that strip of paper. Since I wanted to create some depth, I thought that popping up some of the elements that are in the foreground, the front of the arrangement, would help to make it look a little bit more realistic. So I'm using some fun foam and you can see here I'm cutting it to size and I place it behind 3 of the pine trees. I always want to mention that I use ATG adhesive to attach the foam down to the layout initially, but I go back with some wet glue, usually gel glue, and I'll attach them down when I'm 100% sure of the placement. I like to be able to move things around, but the ATG adhesive won't permanently hold the foam in place, so it's really important to use a more permanent adhesive. So I love this little truck, and it has the Christmas tree in the back, so I thought this would be a perfect item to add to this little scene here. I popped the tree up on some foam as well, and I put it to the left of one of the pine trees that I popped up. And then I was thinking of adding these little deer to the layout as well. First, I'm going to add this small tree onto the layout. I do a little bit of rearranging. I want to make sure that I have different heights to those trees in the background to make the silhouette of this whole scene look interesting. And then I think it makes it look a little bit more realistic when the trees have varied heights. I'm planning on adding those deer that are at the top of the mat. First, I wanted to cut away the excess white paper, and now I'm adding those deer. They're also going to be popped up, and I'm going to just pop them up on the top where they overlap with the snow from the house that's behind them. I decided not to use the other large house that's at the top of the mat. I just thought that would be too many large houses. But I did find some more smaller elements. I found a tiny house in the kit this month, so I added that on the left-hand side just to make it look like it was off in the distance since it's so small, and I found a few more little pine trees. And I positioned those behind the trees that I already had. And since those are also small, I thought that that would help to add to, again, that look of depth. I didn't want the background paper to be too busy just because this scene is rather busy, so I decided to go with one of the plainer papers. For this layout, I'm using 2 square photos. These are photos of my daughters Danielle and Julia, and we are celebrating Christmas Eve at my sister's house here. They are already backed on some white cardstock. Then I used one of the pattern papers from the kit and I matted them one more time. The red paper helps the photos to contrast with the background. And just briefly, you might have seen that I put a scalloped border along the top of the layout. I wanted to break that white scallop up a little bit with a border strip. So I have 2 green striped papers and then 2 red papers, and I'm going to be mounting the green striped papers on the red papers. For these strips, I wanted to tone down the white edges, so I used some Distress Oxide in Barn Door, and I just inked the edges of the red papers, and now I'm layering the green striped papers on top. I just wanted a really small touch of red on either side of the strip that I'm going to put at the top of the layout. And for the bottom of the layout, I just wanted the red visible at the top of the green strip. And you'll see how this all comes together in just a second. I'm trying to be very careful to have the strips lined up correctly so that the same amount of the red is showing all the way across the strip. And now I'm ready to position them on the layout. I haven't attached down that strip with the little scene on it yet. I'm just trying to get an idea of where everything's going to go. And for the top of the layout, I chose the white scallop because I wanted to add something to the top, but I didn't want it to be too attention grabbing. I just wanted it to be kind of a subtle detail. I wanted to add a banner going behind both photos, but that green strip doesn't go all the way across, so I'm using a white strip, and then I am going to use that to make sure everything's lined up. There doesn't have to be a strip there, but I find that often when I try to create the look of having a strip that goes all the way across without adding the piece of paper, the actual piece of paper that makes it a strip, I always end up making it look a little crooked. So I decided I was going to mount those two fish-tailed pieces of paper to either side of a long piece of paper and then attach a small piece of the same paper in the center between the two photos. And the printed paper that's on the banner, that was made out of one of the layering pieces from the kit. And then after I cut it in the fishtail shape, I mounted it to some white cardstock so it would have a white border. I wanted there to be some dimension to my photos, and that's just a personal preference. I know some people aren't a big fan of having a lot of dimension on their pages. I really like the dimension, so I often include fun foam, and I don't think it adds too much dimension, but it adds just enough to me to emphasize certain elements on my layouts. So I popped up those photos, and now I'm attaching down that strip of paper to the white scallop. And again, trying to be very careful to make it straight. Although I've been doing a lot of layering and attaching a lot of things to each other, at this point I have nothing that's glued down or attached down to the background because I knew I wanted to add some white splatters to the background. This is just a little bit of a subtle touch. I like the idea of having white splatters, especially because this is a snow layout. I absolutely love white splatters on pretty much any layout, but I think I might have skipped the white splatters on this layout if it wasn't for the fact that it was a snow scene that I had made at the bottom of the layout. So I use watered down white acrylic paint. I use it very frequently, so I have it already in a little container ready to go, and that way I don't have to mix paint or get paint to the right consistency on the spot. I have it already mixed up. Using some punches, I punched out some photo corners and I also punched out a circle from one of the pattern papers that we got in the kit. I inked the edges of these punched out pieces and also of that poinsettia with some Distress Oxide. I used Barn Door, that's the red color, and I also used Rustic Wilderness, that's the green color. I'm layering this round tag that says Christmas Wishes on top of the green circle. This is going to serve as the title for my layout. I am going to make a little cluster with the poinsettia that I just inked, and I'm also going to embellish it further in a little while. First, I'm using some pieces of foam, and I'm popping up that poinsettia and positioning it at the top of the title. I'm going to place the title in between the two photos at the top. First, I'm adding some photo corners. I started by layering the green photo corner over a whitish colored photo corner. It doesn't stay like this, however. I do eventually go back and switch the layering with the lighter color on the top and the green on the bottom. I just thought it was a little bit too much green and it just drew your eye away from the photo, and that's never the goal. You always want the composition to draw your eye to the photo. The splatters on the background are dry, so now I can start attaching everything down. I started off by attaching my little snow scene to the bottom. I have that strip that I layered earlier on, so that's going right at the bottom of the layout. Next, I attach down the scalloped piece to the top of the layout. Because I'm filming this and I didn't want to block the entire layout with my head, I turned the layout to its side. Just wanted to make sure that I had that strip lined up with the edge of the paper. Now I'm using the ATG adhesive and I'm attaching that whole strip down to the background. And again, I will go back with some glue and attach it down permanently. If you happen to see my unboxing video for this kit, you may recall that I pointed out that the packaging has some beautiful images on it. So the clusters that I use at the top of the photos, those were cut out of the packaging that the ephemera came in. And I think that it just made the perfect little finishing touch for the layout. It brings the red to the top, and I just think that those florals are beautiful. So I like the way those looked tucked behind each of the photos. I used a Martha Stewart holly punch, and I punched out some holly pieces using the same green pattern paper that I used to create the green matting for the Christmas Wishes title. I made that switch with the photo corners and I layered the lighter color on top of the green. Now that I'm watching the video, I liked it both ways. I liked the green too, but like I said, I thought there was a little bit too much green in that area and it was kind of drawing the eye a little bit too much. Next, I added some self-adhesive pearls to the background. I have this sheet of pearls that has 3 different sizes of pearls on it. I put the medium-sized pearl on each of the photo corners. I put the larger pearl on the 2 ends of the banner. And then I used a combination of the medium and the smallest pearl, and I began decorating all the pine trees at the bottom of the layout with those pearls. I used both the medium and the smallest size pearl to decorate those trees. Whenever I'm using an embellishment like dots or pearls, I always like to see if I can incorporate it in different areas on the layout. Since I have the pearls at the top, I was looking for another way to use them. So then after I added them to the pine trees, I went ahead and added a couple to the red sprays that are on top of the photos. And then I got a little carried away perhaps, and I added some of the larger size pearls to each of the scallops at the top of the page. I put a lot of pearls on the page, but even if you don't like to embellish quite that much, I do think it's a good idea to not just have an embellishment in just one place on the layout. In most cases, I don't think there are any hard and fast rules, however. So since I decorated the trees, I figured I might as well decorate them a little bit more. I found some stars in my stash. I used these clear stars, and I had 2 or 3 different sizes. I think I used 3 different sizes of stars, and I added them to the tops of some of the trees, not all of them. And then I also added a star to the title. And that completes this layout. Here are some close-ups. Happy New Year to everybody. I just wanted to let you know I am working very hard to answer all of your comments. I appreciate each and every one of them. I appreciate you watching this video, and I really hope that you found something useful that inspired you to create a layout yourself. Please take a look in the description box. You'll find the links to the My Creative Scrapbook website and to all of their social media, and I hope you'll check them out. Please have a fantastic day, and I will see you again soon. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.